Ollie was very excited because today was the day of the factory tour. There was a new-ish chocolate factory in Baltimore. It opened about a year ago, and the chocolate that they made were delicious. But the factory was very mysterious. No one ever seemed to come in or out. And the owner was equally mysterious. He called himself Drawer Knob Jacket Button. And he would appear in strange videos sometimes promoting the chocolate. But no one ever seemed to see him out and around town. And then he announced a contest where in some of the chocolates would be a silver ticket. And if you got a silver ticket, you were going to get to come to the factory the first time he was going to open the factory to the public. And Ollie won one of the silver tickets. It was out of this world. He wasn't trying all that hard. He didn't buy 1,000 tickets or buy 1,000 chocolates rather, or anything like that. He just happened to get lucky. He bought it from the local corner store, and there was one in there. So he showed up at the factory on the day. It was down in roughly Pigtown, kind of by the railroad museum. There's a lot of warehouses and other similar things in the area. And he showed up at the gate, and there were a handful of other people there waiting at the gate, and they all had the silver tickets. And when the appointed hour, 8:30 a.m., arrived, the gates swung open on their own. And little arrows were leading from where the gates opened up to the front doors. So the people just followed the arrows. When they got there, the doors flung wide open, and there, and all her splendiferous finery, was Drawer Knob Jacket Button. She was 6'2" and dressed in a fuzzy purple tuxedo. And everyone had been assuming that this person would be shy because, well, they didn't do any interviews and they were so reclusive, but no. Drawer Knob was gregarious and fun and cheerful. She invited them all in and showed them the factory, bit by bit. They all had to sign a little safety waiver, and they all got little hard hats. And Drawer Knob said, "And those hard hats are yours to keep. And you'll notice they smell like chocolate, and they should stay smelling like chocolate for weeks. Just one of the many tricks we've learned here as we've made chocolate right in the heart of Baltimore." They went around and they saw the shipping and receiving area where the cocoa beans came in, the splitting and the fermenting areas where they turned the cocoa beans and did all the things they needed to do, and the grinding area, and the roller wheels, and the cocoa butter processing things, and the milk tanks, and the blending machines, and the ingredient hoppers, and all the many things. And it was a fascinating tour. There were steps and processes involved in making the chocolate that I had never dreamed of. Things too complicated and strange to even explain here, but then when you see them in context, they just make perfect sense. How could you make chocolate without them, it seemed. Then they got to the packaging room, and Drawer Knob pulled a big lever, and it seemed like the whole building started to rumble. It seemed like the whole building was starting to shake. I said, "Is everything okay? Are we having an earthquake? What's going on?" And Drawer Knob said, "Oh, it's all going to plan. See, this is the most ingenious part of my design. This factory It's not just a factory. It makes chocolate. It makes chocolate at a great scale. But you see, it is also a giant evil robot. And then there was a moment of confused silence. Well, not quite silence. The robot factory was still rising on its giant robot factory legs. Things were rumbling and shifting and shaking. Drawer knob went on. You see, not only is every piece of equipment in this factory designed to produce the most exquisite chocolate, it is also bolted down tight and firm and rigid. And it is all equipped to be moved around, to be mounted to a moving building. And you, my friends, my silver ticket winners, you have a very important role today role to play today, because you are all your guests, your successors, your new board members, the different people guessed. No, no, said Drawer Knob. You are all my hostages. Hostages, Ollie said. What do you mean? I said, well, making chocolate is fine. It's a fun and a good way to make money, but what makes even more money is just demanding that the city hand you over millions and millions of dollars and then disappearing into the night. That's what I plan to do. Now, if you excuse me, I've got a video to film. And she turned around, and at the end of her cane, she snapped on her cell phone and pulled up some social media video site and said, hello, Baltimore, and hello especially to Baltimore's mayor and board of estimates. I am Drawer Knob Jacket Button, and I've got 12 of your Baltimore citizens here as my hostages. And those of you near Pigtown know that my factory has turned into a giant robot. And not only will I murder all of the hostages, but I'll take my robot and I'll smash the cutest, most interesting buildings all throughout the city. Starting with this old church nearby where they do swing dancing. Maybe I'll stomp on that little adorable art museum that's also a coffee shop. Go over and kick into the side of the railroad museum. Oh, there's all sorts of terrible things I'll do with my robot. The only way you'll not have those things happen is if you, the city, or the state, I guess I'm not picky on that, send $40 million into my Venmo account. You have 3 hours to decide. Now, the other ticket holders were aghast. What a bizarre turn of events. They didn't know quite what to expect in going into the chocolate factory of Recluse, but a hostage situation where both they and even the city itself were being taken hostage by a mad chocolate roboticist. That was not on anybody's bingo card. Curiously, Drawer Knob remained ever polite. Said, thank you for your patience. I would ask you all now to come with me up to the observation booth. I have a special room where you'll be safe, but also not too much of a hassle. I'm sure you don't love the idea of being taken hostage. Who would? But I've gone through great pains to make sure your stay with us is comfortable. For one thing, there's plenty of chocolate in the room. A little coffee. Ollie nodded at the thought of coffee. And in about 20 minutes, we'll bring up sandwiches. Do we have any vegetarians in the crowd or anyone else with dietary restrictions? Confused, but appreciative of the courtesy, a few people in the audience said, "Oh, I don't eat nuts. I'm a vegetarian over here." I said, "Great. I've got all that down, and I'll have that up for you in a few minutes. We don't have any sodas, but I can offer you iced tea, water, lemonade, or, of course, milk." And like a waiter, Drawer Knob took all of their orders. It sounded like a lovely lunch, and in fact, 20 minutes later, up in the observation booth, it was quite a lovely lunch. The sandwiches were,
She said she would murder them.
well, if she didn't get her ransom money, yes. Doorknob even joined them for lunch. I said, I sincerely hope the city just pays up because I don't actually want to do anybody any harm. And you all seem like lovely people. I will have to follow through on my threat if they refuse to pay, of course. But for now, please enjoy yourself. These sandwiches, they're quite good. Our in-house chefs are the best. Ollie realized as he dined on quite a lovely vegan pesto sandwich that as much as Doorknob may be wanting to be a good host, this was also to throw everybody off and keep them confused and keep them guessing. So while Ollie was eating the sandwiches and drinking the coffee and having a chocolate, and there were also some really nice brownies, he was planning and plotting. And he realized that the room they were in was built to keep them in the room, but it was built to keep humans in the room. It was built to resist human levels of squishiness and ingenuity. And after the lunch was over, which again was quite nice, I had a quick cup of coffee and set to work. Because Doorknob Jacket Button had left to go to attend to other matters in the factory. And there were no guards. The room was just firmly locked. But it was ventilated. There was air conditioning blowing in sweet, cool air into the room. Ollie bent the gratings a little bit, started to squeeze his way through. The other people said, "What are you doing? What are you doing? I don't know what. Certainly no more sandwiches." Oh, so I'm getting us out of here is what I'm doing. But you all stay put. It's crucial that she doesn't realize anything is amiss. So Ollie squeezed into the ductwork and bent the grating back behind him. He found his way down. All the way back down to the factory floor. He looked around and realized he was in the wrong spot and went back up into the ductwork rather, until he came out right near that lever that Doorknob had pulled to start this whole robot madness. Seeing the tension of it, Ollie looked around, and about 15 feet above the lever, there was a shelf. And on that shelf was a light and some other safety equipment. But it made a vantage. Ollie quickly came up with a plan, quickly executed it. He came out of the grating, making sure no one saw him, and he flipped the switch back down. And as the building rumbled and shook and tilted with what I could only assume was the motions of a robot building becoming a regular building again, Ollie himself climbed up the wall with lightning speed and hid among the safety equipment. Once the building had settled back down into the ground and stopped moving, Ollie saw exactly what he expected to see, which was Doorknob Jacket Button running into the room, saying, "Who flipped the switch? Who was it? Is there a turncoat in my ranks?" And she ran for the switch to flip it back up again. Ollie timed the jump perfectly, because as she was not 4 inches from reaching the switch and flipping it back, Ollie landed right on her face, all 8 arms wrapping around her head. The two of them went down with a thud, and there was a mighty ruckus. Doorknob swinging punches, but swinging punches at what? It's not very effective to punch an octopus. And Ollie just holding on, fending off the swings and nail scratches, trying basically to choke Doorknob out. After a few minutes, that's exactly what happened. Drawer knob fell. Ollie could still feel her heart beating, but she had passed out because she couldn't breathe well enough with an octopus on her face. Ollie grabbed her phone, pulled up the most recent app, which was the same social media app she'd posted the video from. And she said, "This is Ollie the octopus. I've got drawer knob sedated, well, unconscious and under control, but we need police help here now. We're not sure where the robot, if it's still in the same spot. Point is, we need help. I'll tie her up, but who knows if her cronies are around. We need help now, now, now." Then he set to work. He climbed back up, because up in the safety area, there were some ropes and straps. He hog-tied drawer knob quite effectively. As it turned out, nearly the whole factory was automated. There were a handful of servants, like the cook, and a few delivery people, but they weren't really interested in, fighting a knockdown, drag-out fight for the crazy robot chocolatier. Ollie got out his own phone and called his friends at the police. And within it took them about half an hour to get inside the building. They had to bring an acetylene torch to cut through some locks. They made their way in. They took Drawer Knob into custody, who was awake by then, but not at all happy with the situation. They broke down the lock to the actually quite comfortable room where the other hostages were held. Everyone had some chocolate, and then they went home. On their way out to the police car, Drawer Knob said, "Why, Ollie? Why did you have to do that? It was all going to work." I said, "Well, you're a crazy robot chocolate criminal. I can't just let you hold my city hostage. You threatened to kick down the train museum. I love the train museum." Drawer Knob said, "Well, I was going to do that last. I like it too. But it's all foiled now." I said, "Well, if it's any consolation, even if the robot hostage situation part of your business didn't work out, your chocolate was lovely and your coffee was good." And that was the case of Ollie and the robot factory.